Hello, everybody. Welcome to the MTG Place podcast. I'm Corey, your host, and with me, like always, is James. How's it going, James?
Doing good here. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Today, we're going to talk about some Aftermath cards. There was like 35 rares and mythics in the set, so just like a quick little booster that they added. But there's a couple of cards might be useful in Commander. You might want to hear about, so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to say a couple ways you can support us. First way is on TCG Player. You can click our affiliate link and let them know we sent you over there, and helps us out. So thank you if you do that. And second way is directly on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/mtgplace and sign up for different tier levels there. Get all sorts of cool perks, including like playing games with us and stuff. And lastly, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell someone else to listen to the podcast. Helps grow our listenership.
Yeah. We appreciate all the support in any way that you were able to give it to us. So, yeah, and word of mouth is worth a ton. So, and it's free. All right. So we will be going through. It's kind of like a supplementary little set, so it's not huge. We'll be going Wilburg order as always. Rares only. Yeah. So I guess we'll start this thing off, huh?
Yeah, you got the first one.
Yeah, so the first one we're going to do is Deification. It is 2 and a white for an enchantment. As Deification enters the battlefield, choose a Planeswalker type. Planeswalkers you control of the chosen type have hexproof. As long as you control a creature, if damage dealt to a Planeswalker you control of the chosen type would result in all loyalty counters on it being removed. Instead, all but one of those counters are removed.
Yeah, so it's an interesting card. If you're playing like a Super Friends deck or something, and you have a bunch of different Jaces, you can be like Jace, and then your Jaces can't die. They just go down to 1.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, unless they destroy it with like destroy target Planeswalker,
right? And they'll still die.
But like if they like bolt it or attack it, it'll just go down to 1.
They'll stay at 1. So that's a good way to save your Planeswalkers, especially. Yeah.
I guess they have hexproof too, so I guess they couldn't. The destroy spell anyway.
Yeah, so your Planeswalkers are pretty safe, honestly. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of Planeswalker-centric decks out there, so they would definitely want this.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting card. It's good for Planeswalker decks. Outside of that, it's awful.
Yeah, if you're not playing Planeswalkers, don't play this, obviously.
Next up, we got Metropolis Reformer. It's 2 and a white for a 2/3 Angel Cleric with Flying and Vigilance. You have hexproof, and whenever Metropolis Reformer is dealt damage, you gain that much life.
Interesting.
So it's decent attacker with Flying Vigilance. Yeah. Gives you hexproof from spells, so they can bolt you or something. Yeah. And then if you block with it, you're going to gain some life.
Yeah, this is great for any life gain deck. Any, honestly, just small, like, creature-based deck, especially ones that are white.
Yeah, just an angel or cleric deck, flying deck. Like, it's got 2 good keywords.
Yeah, so. White Weenie's great. Yeah, this fits in a lot of stuff. Yeah, honestly, pretty interesting card here. So I like this one. Next we get Spark Rupture. It is 2 and a white for an enchantment. When Spark Rupture enters the battlefield, draw a card. Each Planeswalker with 1 or more loyalty counters on it loses all abilities and is a creature with power and toughness, each equal to the number of loyalty counters on it.
Yeah, so draw a card, all your Planeswalkers become creatures instead.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Until this leaves the field, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Honestly, kind of a decent like counter to it's each Planeswalker.
Yeah, you can play it if it's a good decent counter to Planeswalkers if you just want to shut them off for your opponent. Or it also could be a win con if you only have Planeswalkers and like no creatures.
Right, and then you just swing for an ass ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got freaking Gideon sitting there with like 7 counters on him. He's a freaking 7/7.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that's interesting kind of multi-use card here.
Again, very good in Planeswalker decks.
Yeah.
Or against Planeswalker
Or
decks.
against them.
Next up, we got Tazri, the Stalwart Survivor. 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, human warrior. Each creature you control has tap, add when 1 mana of any of this creature's colors. Spend this mana only to activate an ability of a creature. Activate only if this creature has another activated ability. So your activated ability creatures get tap, add a mana of that color, and that can only be used for creature spells. Then you could pay Wooburg and tap mill 5 cards, put all creature cards with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities from among the milled cards into your hand. So this is 5-color commander for activated abilities deck.
Yeah, interesting. There's a lot of different activated ability creatures out there. There's like the Pingers deck. There's like ones that that can tap to like draw cards. There's ones that can tap to tap other shit down. Like there's all sorts of stuff that like this can really be like, this can mess with. And yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
there's a lot of things there. I think there's also was a like green red guy or something that was like creatures with activated abilities get +2/+2 or something that came out recently. So like that
Oh
would
yeah,
combo
yeah,
with
that'd
this.
be really good with that too. Um, yeah, there's tons of creatures out there that do stuff. So this works with a lot of stuff. It'll be interesting to see how this will fit in. It's honestly a pretty cheap card too.
Yeah, it
Considering.
seems kind of cool to build a commander deck around. Although I feel like you'd
Hmm.
be mostly like really creature heavy. Just
Yeah, this would definitely have to be a creature heavy deck for you to really get like that payoff off that second ability. Well, that's our very short white. Some interesting cards here. Very different from like what I'm used to seeing. So it's kind of interesting to see
yeah,
these
no
cards.
planeswalkers in the aftermath either because this is supposed to be aftermath of the war. So a lot
Yeah,
of the planeswalkers lost their spark, and so like there's a couple in here that were planeswalkers that are now not, and so they're like
yeah,
creatures that are super good.
right. Like just good ass creatures. All right, so we're gonna move on to blue. There's only like 2 of them. So let's see. The first one is Training Grounds. It is 1 blue for an enchantment. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana.
Yeah, so this is a sweet
So
reprint.
this is
If
really
you
good. Yeah.
It actually made this card go from like a $20 card down to like a $7-8 card. So if you need Training Grounds, pick it up for you,
Get it.
especially commander decks. You know, a lot of them you have activated ability deck creatures.
Yep.
So
Yep.
next up we got Vesuvian Drifter, 2 and a blue for a 2/4 shapeshifter with flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. At the beginning of each combat, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, Vesuvian Drifter becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, except it has flying.
Interesting. So it's kind of a clone every turn
Yeah, it can
that
clone
also has flying.
into the top card of your deck every turn, every combat, which is
That's
weird.
kind of cool. Yeah, you just have like freaking something crazy on top. You're just like, well, it's this now.
Yeah, this would combo with like since it's dividing top because you could like keep
Mhm.
switching what it was.
Oh yeah, you can just make it something insane. It's like, oh, it's freaking a huge angel or something, or it's a
Right.
huge dragon, or it's a it can. There's a lot of stuff that this could
It's like
hit.
a 10/10, but it has fly. So I can block your
And it
flyer.
flies, so it flies over you or something. Yeah. So that's blue. Obviously a very powerful reprint, and then Drifter is also a very interesting card. So yeah, pretty cool stuff here. So black also only has 2 cards. So the first one is Ayara'S Old Sworn. It is 1 in a black for a 2/2 human knight creature with menace. Whenever Ayara'S Old Sworn deals combat damage to a player, if it has fewer than 4 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then, if it has exactly 4 +1/+1 counters on it, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
Yeah, so this is tutor on a stick, basically. You can keep
Yeah, really.
tagging with a 2/2 menace. It's good in a human deck, good in a knight deck. It's good enough if you have any sort of +1 counter manipulation, because you could like get this to 4, get a card, and then tick it down to 3 with an effect, and then hit someone again, and then get another card. Keep doing
Yeah,
that
there's
because you just have to
definitely
hit
plenty.
exactly 4 every time.
There's plenty of ways that, like, especially with green, there's a lot of green cards that you can move around counters on.
Yeah,
There's also some artifacts I think that can do that. So yeah, there's a lot of cards that can really break this and just make you tutor.
yeah. In like worst case, it's 2 for a 2/2 menace, which is still a pretty good card.
That's just fine on its own, honestly. So yeah, pretty nice little card. Lot of stuff in a little package.
Next up, we got the Urborg Scavengers, 2 and a black for a 2/2 spirit. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on it. It has flying as long as a card exiled with it has flying. The same is true for first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance.
That's a lot of keywords. Holy crap!
So this seems like it'd be good in the keyword counters deck, because you could exile
Yep.
one of your creatures and get a 1/1 counter on it and an ability. So this will keep getting bigger. You can also just do it to your opponent's graveyard, get rid of their stuff.
Yep,
They have
also
keywords.
works.
So this is, at minimum, going to probably be a 3/3, and it's going to keep getting bigger every time you attack, every time you attack until they get rid of it. It's pretty good for a 3-drop.
Honestly, yeah. And worst case scenario, it just buffs itself when it swings, which is
Well, it hits
honestly,
when it enters too. So like as long
yeah,
as they have something in their graveyard, it's going to be a 3/3.
yeah. And then it'll at least buff itself, if not gain keywords or
Because you
something.
don't even have to exile a creature; it could be any card,
Yeah, it's just a card.
and you get a 1/1 counter. And then if you just happen to hit a creature with that keyword, you get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a nice little card. Probably going to be a pain in the ass to deal with, especially if they drop it early. So,
Right.
oh yeah, that'll snowball real quick. So yeah, that's black. Black's pretty cool. So got some cool, honestly, like, cheap, easy cards to play that do a lot of stuff. That's kind of what you want to see.
Yeah. Especially with the overall mana cost of decks going down and down.
Exactly. Yeah, you just definitely want to see the curve just keep dropping. So now we got 2 red cards. The first one is Arnie Metal Brow. It is 2 and a red for a 3/3 legendary human berserker creature. Whenever a creature you control attacks, or a creature enters the battlefield under your control attacking, you may pay 1 and a red. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value less than that creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking.
Wait, so you attack with something, pay 2, put something with less mana value in, and then you could pay 2 again to put something more mana value than that?
Yeah, that's
Because
what
it
it
triggers
sounds
on that too. So you basically just like, oh, I attack with a 6-drop, and I'm going to pay 2, put a 4-drop in. And I'm going to pay 2, put a 2-drop in.
Yeah, this seems really good.
This can snowball crazily.
It just combos off itself.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a lot of creatures in your hand, obviously.
Obviously, yeah, if you have a hand of creatures, that's what you want. If you don't, then it's
it does require a lot of setup. Like you have to have bunch of 1 in a red. It's like how much extra mana are you going to have, But then
especially
if you have
early.
like I said, if you have a 6-drop out and like 2-3 creatures in your hand, and then or 2, you could probably activate it 2 times.
Yeah, which honestly, that's plenty. Like
Seems
that would be enough to warrant it. But yeah, it definitely takes.
I mean, this would also trigger if you just like another effect you have throws it in. So
right, yeah, that works too. So yeah, it's a cool little card.
like it would trigger twice off Brimaz attacking, putting the 2 tokens in attacking.
Right, yeah, that'd be a really good combo, or hero or something.
He would trigger too.
Yeah, there's definitely some bust. I feel like there's definitely some cards that can actually break this card. So yeah, with the right setup, this could be pretty powerful.
Next up, we got Plarg and Nasari, 3 red for a 5/4 legendary creature Orc Ifrit. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So everyone flips up the card, they choose one you can't cast, basically.
Yep.
And then you can cast up to 2 other ones.
That seems pretty fun.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
It's the beginning of your upkeep, too.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the... what's the guy when he attacks? You do that? A Tali. It's like a Tali, but it only triggers on your upkeep.
Yeah, this is going to be definitely something that people are going to have to deal with if you put it on the field. And it's a 5/4, like it's pretty big. So, yeah, that's interesting there. So that's red. Red's got some interesting stuff too here.
2 good red cards.
Yep.
Cheat stuff
now, yeah, I mean it's all kind of about cheating stuff, which is this is kind of like old school red, so that's kind of fun to see. So now we got a few more green cards. So our first one is a Leyline. It's Leyline of Immersion. It is 3 and a green for an aura that's an enchantment. It has enchant legendary creature. Enchanted creature has ward 2 and tap, add 5 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast spells.
Yeah, so turns your legendary creature into a ward 2, tap, add 5 mana.
Yeah,
but you can't use it for abilities.
Yeah.
Just to cast stuff from your hand.
Just literally, just a huge mana dork for like your whatever you have in your hand, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth 4 to do that to a creature, but if you can play it and then use it right away, it's kind of like you're gaining a mana.
Right.
If you can use it the same turn.
And then if they
you just have to have a legendary creature out that like is already in play.
Right. Well, assuming that your commander has like doesn't have like an activated ability or like you don't want to attack with it or something. Right. I guess you could equip or enchant that.
I mean, this would be pretty good with Risk because you could play Risk and the next turn or then you ramp into this and then you just Risk taps for 5 mana.
Or this is like really good for like like late game Risk because like late game you don't really care about his ability.
Well, you care about the double tokens if you want tokens, but
if you already have a field of tokens, then like this is usually better if you're trying to like get.
I'd have to play with this a little bit to see. I feel like it's like on the border of you might play it, you might not. You definitely probably play it in the Legendary Creature Matters deck if you're playing 5 colors.
It's probably really good in that. But yeah, I don't know. It's 4 mana, but you net 1, so it could. I mean,
yeah, you just have a creature that isn't summoning sick that you throw it on because then you're netting 1 right away.
Exactly. For sure.
Next up, we got the chase card of the entire thing. I opened 2 of these when I opened my Aftermath box.
Fun.
I think they're at like $40-$50. It's Nissa, Resurgent Animist. So it's Nissa as a creature here. 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature elf scout with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if it's the second time this ability is resolved this turn, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order.
Oh, man.
So it's basically Lotus Cobra, but on the second hit, you get to put a card in your hand.
Right.
On the second hit of the turn.
So this definitely goes well with like your typical landfall decks like in Omnath or something like that, especially if you are looking for elementals. That I believe is one.
Also great in elves or elementals, because you get to start dig for those. So.
Yeah. This seems pretty good.
It's bonkers.
That's why it's like $50. All right. Next we have Open the Way. It is X green for a sorcery. X can't be greater than the number of players in the game. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X land cards. Put those land cards onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Yeah, so
it's like random mana search for how many players you have.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, there's 4 players in the game. I could pay 6 mana to get 4 land cards. I mean, it could be any land, so you could hit like Cradle or something good, but
it's 6 like It's okay. So at the very least, you're paying 3 to find 1.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot
Uh,
is 4 for 2, but that's still
yeah,
not as good as like cultivate.
that's like yeah, like that's like what that's like an explosive vegetation or something like that. I think that costs
Yeah,
4. Um,
and then you got 5 for 3, which is okay.
yeah. I
And then
mean, you better
6 for 4.
be
I mean, 6 for 4 is a decent rate because
yeah.
it's like playing, a bunch of rampant growths. But like,
Like, you better be like hitting some really good land. Like you better
yeah,
not be just hitting basics. If you're just
like
hitting basics, like
it.
that's not worth it.
The only place I would play this probably is like either in a deck, revolved
Like
around special
lands deck,
lands, or
standstill or
or like a
something.
landfall deck where you just want to trigger landfall a bunch of times at a
Yeah, you're
turn.
just trying to find all the lands you can find. Yeah, that then is valuable. But outside of that, yeah, unless you're playing like some land deck or something. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they better be good.
Next up, we got the Tranquil Frillback. It's 2 and a green for a 3/3 dinosaur. And when it
Ooh,
enters the battlefield, you may pay green up to 3 times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, choose up to that many of the following effects. So basically, you can kick it up to 3 times. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Exile target player's graveyard. You gain 4 life.
so you're probably doing the top 2 the most, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, so you're basically
How
playing.
often you're gaining life?
You're
Like,
going to play three for
yeah,
3/3. You're going to pay 4 to blow up a creature for 3/3, or blow up an artifact or enchantment for that.
yeah,
Exile someone's graveyard if you really want to, or gain 4 life.
yeah.
It's okay.
I feel like the top 2 triggers are probably like yeah, you're like the
I
exile's
mean,
good.
when the exile a graveyard's good, that's good,
Yeah,
but it's not
that's
good. You don't need it that often. This is playing this graveyard deck. The destroy artifact enchantment probably use the most.
that's probably the most important one. Yeah,
Um, and the gain 4 life is just going to be like if you have
like
nothing else
if
you
you're
can do
like
with it, or you have
dying or
an extra,
something.
or you have
Yeah,
an extra mana. Like you're just like, all right, I'll pay 4 for a 3/3 and gain 4 on
yeah,
top of it. Like
like whatever.
it's an
um,
okay card.
it's all right. I feel like it's not the most utilized things, but I mean, hey, when you need them, you need them. So it's a good way to get that kind of stuff,
It's definitely a little
taken care of.
versatile if you need like a card that
Yeah,
fits multiple roles or something.
exactly. So that's green. Green's got some really good stuff, and then also some kind of okay stuff, in my opinion.
Yep. Does that bring
So
us to all the multicolor cards, which is the majority of the set?
yeah, all right, got lots of multi cards. So starting off with this Rakdos one, it's Obnixilis, Captive Kingpin. It is 2 and Arachdos, which is black and red, for a 4/3 legendary demon creature with flying and trample. Whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Obnixilis, Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library until your next turn, or until your next end step. Sorry, you may play this. You may play that card.
Yeah, super good card. It can be a sweet commander.
Yeah,
So whenever they have to lose exactly 1 life though, so you need a way to like ping them or something. But
yeah. So like a pinger deck, this works really well with. There's plenty of cards that do that, so that's not hard to do. Otherwise, you can do stuff like what is it, ground tremors, or no, impact
impact
tremors. That's
tremors,
the
yeah.
one. Yeah, like this combos really well with that. So yeah, there's plenty of cards that you can definitely combo this with, and it'll definitely do some work for you.
Next up, we got Calyx, Guided by Fate. There's 1 green and a white for a 2/2 legendary enchantment creature, human druid. Constellation, whenever Calyx, Guided by Fate, or another enchantment enters the battlefield of your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And whenever Calyx or an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control. Do this only once each turn.
All right.
So, enchantment deck,
Yeah.
basically.
Would this be a commander for that? You think?
Yeah, definitely. I think you could play
Yeah.
this in an enchantment deck. or a deck where you enchant a bunch of creatures, or you can
I
play this as a
mean,
commander.
it's Selesnya, so like that's a perfect color combo for that.
Right.
So there's a lot of enchantments and enchantment like friendly cards that fall in that colorway. So definitely good. Um, did we skip Samut or is that somewhere else on the order?
Oh, I was doing green, white, black, white, blue. I don't know what order. Maybe I messed up the order, but
All right, I'm just gonna say quick. It was supposed to be after our next list, so.
okay. Yeah, I have a
uh,
different order then. So
okay. Fair enough. This is gonna be interesting.
yeah.
Next is Samut Vizier of. Oh Jesus, Samut Vizier of Nakatamun. Sure. It is one in Gruul, which is red and green, for a 2/3 legendary human warrior cleric creature. First strike, vigilance, haste. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if that creature entered the battlefield this turn, draw a card.
So 2/2. When you deal combat damage to a player, so if you hit him with a haster, basically you draw a card.
Yeah.
So I don't know, haste tribal commander. It could be cool.
Yeah, I can match it up with that with the horse from the Lord of the Rings set.
Yeah, there you go.
there's some synergy for you.
Next up, I got Danatha, New Benalia's Light. It is 1 green white for a 2/2 legendary creature human knight with vigilance, trample, lifelink. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard.
Okay, so more enchantment stuff here.
Yeah, you
It's
can also
very
play
cool.
equipment though, which is cool.
Yep. So you can get some stone forges, when they're and stuff too.
Also, a shitload of keywords for the keywords deck.
Yep. Some of these have crazy amounts
Like
of
3
keywords.
mana, 2/2 vigilance, trample, lifelink. What?
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Don't even need to use the second part.
Yeah. Like that's just fine. Yeah. Packs a punch. Next we have Sigarda, Font of Blessings. It is 2 in Selesnya, or green and white. It's a 4/4 legendary angel creature with flying. Other permanents you control have hexproof. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast angel spells and human spells from the top of your library. So angel / human tribal synergy here.
Yeah,
Decent
so you
commander
get
for that, perhaps.
the hex proof. Well, you get everything from all the old Sigardus, basically. You get
Yeah,
the hex
it's
proof, you get the
essentially
angels
yeah,
and human stuff. You can play
yeah,
stuff off the top. It's cool.
yeah. It's a nice little
Sweet
card.
card.
Yep, 4/4/4/4 flyer, not bad. Well statted for sure.
Next up, we got Jirina Dauntless General. It is white black for a 2/2 legendary creature human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard, and you can sacrifice him. All humans you control get hexproof and indestructible until the turn.
Okay.
So more human tribal matters.
Yep. We can get a lot of that this set. It looks like so that's kind of cool. There's a lot of stuff that's going to benefit from this. So we'll probably be definitely seeing it played. Next we have the Kenrith's Royal Funeral. It is 2 in white and black or Orzhov for a legendary enchantment. When the Kenrith's Royal Funeral enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target legendary creature cards from your graveyard. You draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value among cards exiled this way. Legendary spells you cast cost one less to cast for each card exiled with Kenrith's Royal Funeral.
So this seems actually really good for the
Yeah,
legendary
this is
matter stick.
crazy.
Because it's like, all right, all your stuff's going to cost 2 less, and you're going to draw, a few cards, lose some life, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, realistically, you have a 3-drop in here in the graveyard. You're going to pay 4 mana for draw 3, lose 3 life, and all my stuff costs 1 less, 2 less if you have a second legendary spell sitting in the graveyard to exile or creature to exile.
Not bad at all.
It's really good.
Definitely some crazy utility here. So that's definitely worthwhile in a deck that really utilizes legendary permanence. So yeah,
I mean, outside of that, you could even use it just to like draw some cards.
yeah,
Because like at least your commander is still going to cost less with this out. So
yeah. And then hey, if you have a high cost commander or something, that's honestly always good.
next up, I got Joel Riel, the voice of Zalfir. Is 2 green blue for a 3/3 legendary creature human druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one target land you control becomes an XX green and blue bird creature token with flying and haste until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. It's still a land. And whenever a land creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Okay, so
So you want a big hand,
big
and
hand, yeah.
you want a lot of things that turn lands into creatures, so you can draw a whole bunch of cards.
Seems good.
Combos with that creature that makes all lands creatures,
Yeah,
or all creatures forests. I think it is whatever it is.
yeah.
It's like
I think there's like
land.
some druid decks or something that do that, if I remember right. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's
definitely
like Ashaya is the green one. I think it turns creatures into forests.
yeah.
So that's
So yeah,
interesting.
it's an interesting little way to do it. Yeah, this can be quite the payoff if you have the right setup for it for sure. So next we have Kioria, Sovereign of the Deep. It is 3 green blue for a 4/5 legendary merfolk noble creature. It has vigilance and ward 3. Whenever you cast a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent spell from your hand, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. All right, so big sea creature stuff here.
Yeah, another sea creature
Love
deck
it.
commander. You get to cast one for free if it costs less than the one you just played, basically.
Yeah, so you play a gigantic one and you get another one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is usually probably really good because they're usually really expensive and pretty big. So yeah, if you can get this go off, that's pretty powerful usually.
I mean, plus if you play as your commander that is a 4/5 with vigilance and ward 3.
Yeah, it's like they're not gonna be able to even deal with it half the time. It's pretty good.
Next up, I got Nahiri, Forged in Fire. It is
Right.
4 red white for a 5/4 legendary creature core artificer with affinity for equipment. And whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile a top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. You may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana costs.
All right, very Nahiri here. Very equipment based. We
Yeah,
love to see
so
it.
Nahiri deals with equipment as a planeswalker. Now she's not a
Yep.
planeswalker. Do
Still
stuff
dealing
with
with
equipment.
So you're probably going to want to put this in another Nahiri deck, most likely.
Yeah, an equipment deck.
Yeah, definitely with some swords or batter skulls or whatever the hell else you got. Jit. This is really good with stuff like that. Yeah, and that's definitely going to make it a lot more powerful. So next we have Nahiri's Resolve. It is 3 Boros, or red and white, for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have haste. At the beginning of your end step, exile any number of non-token artifacts and or creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of your next end step.
It's a little weird because in a deck where you want to give haste and +1/+0, you probably don't want to pay 5 mana for that effect.
Yeah.
But it does like flickers a bunch of like any number of things. So it has to be artifacts or creatures. Yeah, so you can flicker all your creatures. Which
So if you
white
have
has a lot of good ETBs. So.
Yeah, white's got lots of ETBs. Some equipments can even sometimes do some stuff too. So like a skull.
Right.
Like if you want to revitalize your germ token, that's one way to do it. So you don't have to pay the 5 at a cost to equip or whatever it is. So
right.
Yeah, it's an
Interesting
interesting
card.
card. Yeah.
Next up, we got Narset, Enlightened Exile. 1 blue, red, white, so Jeskai for a 3/4 legendary creature human monk. All creatures you control have prowess. Whenever Narset the Enlightened attacks, exile target non-creature, non-land card with a mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
All right. So prowess matters.
Yeah, and then you get a spell for free basically when you attack. So
Yeah.
you're gonna at least get a prowess trigger on everything else.
Always nice. Always nice.
Seems sweet.
Yeah. Definitely sick. Let's see. Next. What's your next card you have?
I have Nashi.
Okay. Next we have Nashi Moon's Legacy. It is black, green, blue. For a 3/4 legendary rat shaman creature with menace ward 1. Whenever Nashi Moon's Legacy attacks, exile up to 1 target legendary or rat card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. So rats or legendary creatures or legendary rats, perhaps.
Yeah, legendary matters or rats. Yeah, legendary rats.
Or both. Interesting.
I mean, you still have to pay the mana cost of whatever you're copying, though. But
yeah,
still decent.
Yeah, it's a good way to get some stuff out. Get those engines going.
Next up, we got Niv-Mizzet the Supreme. Is Wooburg, so 1 of every color for a 5/5 legendary creature dragon avatar with flying, hexproof from monocolored. Each instant sorcery card in your graveyard that's exactly 2 colors has Jumpstart. If you don't remember what that is, it's you may cast that card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost.
Alrighty. So it's an interesting, like almost Emrakul kind of a constant effect here, because Emrakul was like protection from colors, if I remember right. So this is protection from monocolored, basically.
Yeah, and you basically want to play a deck then with instant and sorcery cards that are double colored.
Yeah.
So it's basically saying, like, Niv-Mizzet, all the guilds of Ravnica matter. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you can get some stuff out. What's our next one? So we still have some that we haven't.
Yeah,
we haven't done. Where the heck is that? What was it?
PNLR.
Oh, okay. Next we got PNLR. It is a Console of Revival. It is Boros, or red and white, for a 2/3 legendary human artificer creature. Thopters. Interesting. Thopters you control have haste. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. So we have a Thopter commander.
Yeah, you could do a Thopter commander, or you could, find a way to cast stuff from exile. So all the exile top cards off the deck, or just the things like you cast stuff off top of your deck for free. You exile and cast it.
There's a lot of stuff that does that too. So yeah, that's an interesting card. Yeah, very different way to use that effect.
I don't know how many Thopters there are in Magic, other than cards that just make Thopters. So if you can make a Thopter tribal, that'd be pretty sweet. But
not very many, and they're generally pretty weak. So I think this is more just to create tokens. I feel like is what this is really for.
Next up, we got Rebuild the City. 3 black, red, green for a sorcery. Choose target land. Create 3 tokens that are copies of it, except they're 3/3 creatures in addition to their other types that have vigilance and menace.
Ooh, okay.
So you can copy a land. Make 3 copies of a land, but they're 3/3s of vigilance menace.
So you just turn your lands into man lands, basically.
Yeah, so just make my strip mine into make 3 copies of it and then blow stuff out.
Just blow a lot of stuff. God, that would be so mean.
Strip mine in a wasteland. I mean, you can't choose something that's legendary because they'll just get sacked off. But
Yeah, can't do Cradle, unfortunately. Otherwise, that would be
I mean, you
crazy.
could if you just want like.
You
Well, they have
could,
summoning sick. Never mind.
one,
So
or oh yeah, because they're creatures. So yeah,
yeah,
that wouldn't work. Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, it's like one crazy turn of just
yeah.
that's not. Yeah, they know better. That's how they get around the legend rule BS.
What does Rocco do?
All right, so Rocco Street Chef is red, green, white for a 2/4 legendary elf druid creature. At the beginning of your end step, each player exiles the top card of their library. Until your next end step, each player may play the card they exiled this way. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and create a food token. So more food token stuff.
Yeah,
A lot of stuff going on here, honestly.
yeah. It's also weird because it's basically everyone draws a card.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what was a parlay where like
Yeah,
you
but
all
except
draw a
for
card
everyone's
and you
getting
do
like an
something.
impulse draw at your end step.
Yeah,
But
which
the whenever
is good
someone
or
plays
bad.
something from exile trigger is going to trigger more than just off his effect, probably. So
Yeah,
it's definitely a pretty cool card.
yeah, it's interesting. A lot of these cards are very different. It's gonna definitely make you think differently about different effects. So it's definitely this one definitely does that too.
Next up, we got Sarkhan, Soul of Flame. 1 blue-red for a 2/4 legendary creature, human shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Sarkhan become a copy of it until end of turn, except its name is Sarkhan and it's legendary in addition to its other types. So used to deal with dragon stuff and still deals with dragon stuff.
Yeah, like do dragons really need more help? Come on.
Yes.
Yes, let's make them cost even more less. Like if you already have the Dragon out, they already cost what 2 less or whatever it is. Now they
One
cost
less,
another
one
one.
less from Dragon.
Oh, it's
But
one.
then
Okay,
there's
so now they cost 2
but then there's the
less.
one that makes it cost 1 less that costs 2 mana, and then there's a 3 mana that
Mhm.
makes all dragons cost 2 less. Now this makes a 3 mana cost 1
So
less.
theoretically, if you have all those cards out, you can make your dragons cost like 4 or more less.
Yep,
Basically.
4 or 5 less basically.
God damn, that's disgusting. And then it kind of has like a Scion effect, sort of. But that reminds me up on the bottom. But instead of searching for it, you're like it when it comes into play, it becomes a copy.
The interesting thing is because its name becomes Sarkhan Soul of Flame, one it's legendary. You can technically copy a legendary dragon with this because it doesn't have the
Yeah,
same name, so it won't trigger the legend rule.
that's pretty interesting. So you can find like a Nicol Bolas or something. I think that's legendary. Yeah, there's a lot of legendary dragons that you probably wouldn't mind copying.
Right. It is only till end of turn that it copies it, though.
Right. So it doesn't get like haste.
But it's definitely this will already be out though. So
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
so like it's interesting because basically it lets you attack with whatever you cast
Yeah,
that turn if it
you can
doesn't have
swing
haste.
right
If
away.
it does, you get both of them. So
Or get the activated
Yeah.
ability or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Really interesting card. Really good for dragons, obviously.
And what does Tyvar do?
Okay, I gotta find where the hell that is. This is going so out of order for me. Okay. Tyvar the Bellicose. It is 2 in Golgari, black and green, for a 5/4 legendary elf warrior creature. Whenever one or more elves you control attack, they gain Death Touch until end of turn. Each creature you control has whenever a mana ability of this creature resolves, put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana this creature produced. This ability triggers only once each turn.
Yeah, so elf commander again.
Yep.
Because whenever they attack, they get death touch. But can you imagine tapping like Priest of Titania for like 10 mana and then I get 10 1/1 counters?
Yeah, my god. There's a lot of elves. What's the one in the elf that taps for like 3 or whatever it is? Like that's like really good. It's like, oh yeah, I guess 3 +1/+1 counters now or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is like the
Heritage Druid,
priest
that's what
priest
it
of
is. Yeah.
Titania is the one that taps for every elf in play, and then
Oh God.
the archdruid is for every elf you control. Like,
Right.
so like those are just gonna get huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are gonna get just gigantic. And there's a lot of other elves that also tap for more than one mana. Usually, I mean, some tap for just one, like Lana War or whatever. But like, there's like Green Weaver taps for two. There's, I believe it's Heritage Druid that taps for three or more. Yeah. This just makes your elves huge.
Yep.
Just in general, because there's so many elves that are just that do
And
something with.
it's a 5/4 for 4 that
Yeah,
all
that's
your
pretty good.
elves that aren't big will have death touch, and the big ones will also have death touch when they attack.
Yeah, and they're just huge. So good luck, everybody else. This is the snowball city right here. Like if this lives for any amount of time, this is just going to cause chaos.
And I think that's it for multicolored.
Yep, I think we hit them all. We had a, I had to jump around a little bit, but we got through it.
So we got artifact card here. We got Karn,
One.
uh, Legacy Reforged. It's 5 mana for a legendary artifact golem. It's a star. Its power and toughness are equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, add a waste for each artifact you control. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So, very good in artifact deck.
Yes, very, very good. Yep. It's just gonna be huge. Like, considering how you're probably gonna have some big
Yeah, I mean, worst case it's a 5/5 because he costs 5.
yeah, because
So,
that's what he costs.
and he's
So
going
he'll
to add
be a 5/5.
at least if he's out by himself, he's a 5/5 that adds 1 mana every upkeep
Yeah.
that can only be spent on artifacts.
But it's artifacts. It's gonna be so much bigger.
Right.
Add a waste for each artifact you control. You know how many artifact decks usually have out? Like at least 10.
Right.
At least 10. So he's gonna freaking tap for or give you literally 10. So it's like, here you go. It's like, okay. Yep, that's gonna be great to deal with. And we have our one lonely land, which is the Dranith Runes. It is a land. It taps to add a waste. If you pay 2 and tap it, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target non-human creature that enter the battlefield this turn. So
it seems good in
not a human.
any 1/1 counter deck. This seems good as long as it doesn't
yeah.
have a bunch of humans.
Yeah. Which obviously a human deck would definitely benefit from that, but this card says no to that, so it has to be something else. Like elves would be good.
So that's Aftermath. What do you think of those cards?
Yeah, really interesting. Very different. Especially, I mean, obviously it's different seeing like, the planeswalkers, not planeswalkers. That's kind of the whole point of it. But also seeing how like different uses for different effects, like exiling to like what was that card that like he exiled to like put +1/+1 counters on or something? Was that
Make
what it was?
Thopters, yeah.
Oh, it was make thought. Yeah, it's like.
And then there's one that just lets you play stuff from exile, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of different effects that you're like not used to, like doing it in different ways that we don't usually see. So it's going to be interesting to see how.
Yeah, and this is only like
in decks.
There's only like a 50 card supplemental set, and the booster packs were 5 cards. I got a box for half price after everyone decided they didn't want it anymore. And I opened 2 Nisas, which more than paid for the box.
Even at full price, I would have paid for it practically.
And so then I'm like, all right, cool. And so if you want to pick up any of these, pretty much all of them except for, I think it's like Karn and Nisa are the 2 expensive ones. The rest is all pretty cheap cards. Until somebody finds some crazy combo with it, obviously. But it's also some interesting commanders you could build around if you want to build some weird tribal decks or.
And I'm honestly, speaking of combos, I feel like there's a lot of these that can combo in specific ways that very well could break certain things. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of these getting a little more expensive because of that. I think that's definitely possible. But yeah, pretty cool little set. Nice and short and sweet this time.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back at you.
We'll see you next time. Have a good night.